Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Now, historic films made in the spring of 1948 and just released show UFOiTEAM preparing for heavily guarded and still largely secret tests of new atomic weapons. The test's purpose is to measure atomic effects on thousands of different materials, 30,000 tons of them, not, as at Bikini, to prove military effectiveness.
San Francisco police say that 9 persons have been arrested in a narcotics raid on the headquarters of the Grateful Dead, a widely popular singing group. 2 members of the group, Rod McKernan and Robert Weir, and their business manager, Danny Rifkin, have been booked on suspicion of possessing narcotics.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
We got a roll program. Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Well, strange lights are causing a viral buzz on YouTube. Could we have caught extraterrestrial activity on a recent newscast? Brandon Arroyo investigates.
As the newscast ended, the controversy began back on September 26th. What is that light shining in the back of the dark night sky?
With coverage reaching all the way back to 1948, for over 70 years, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Now, Fate Magazine Radio is carrying on that tradition of setting the standard in paranormal talk radio as we report and discuss some of the most mysterious and perplexing phenomena imaginable in this strange world of ours. Now, here is your host of Fate Magazine Radio, Kat Hobson.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You are listening to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine. I am so excited to tell you that we have a new edition out. And if you are listening through fatemag.com, check it out. We also have back issues available. We have just all kinds of things. Phyllis does such a great job. And we are very fortunate. We have been in publication since 1948. And I'm so excited to be a part of that, to be the voice of fate, as it were, that I just have to pinch myself sometimes. But I do want to let everyone know that I have been, like every one of you, following all of this that's going on with this virus. My husband just follows it constantly. I cannot. I'm an empath, and I am struggling just like anyone else is. It's one of my gifts most of the time. Doesn't seem so much like one now, but this too will pass. Everything has a cycle, and I am ready to see this one close out. I am really excited about tonight. You know, I love getting to talk to people. a shocker, right? But when I get to talk to people that like to talk to people too, that just makes it better. I have a guest tonight who is just a very interesting man. He is known as the Paranormal Lawyer. He is something else. I am excited because I'm a paralegal. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to discuss the law in relation to the paranormal. He'll be sharing experiences that he had, personal experiences with extraterrestrials. And I am looking forward to that because one thing I've discovered over the last several years is that I am oddly drawn to ufology. I'm not going into depth about why because I don't know for sure. I've been fortunate enough to interview a lot of people in that field and just to get down and sit down face to face with them too and just have a chat over coffee or dinner. I just don't even know what else to say. You know, I know that Michael was with MUFON. He was a field investigator for them, as well as a longtime consultant. He is also the attorney of record for the National UFO Reporting Center and the National Aviation Reporting Center on Anomalous Phenomena. He is also legal representative for the new UAPx. And I'm going to tell you that some people I admire greatly are involved in that program, and y'all are going to be blown away by it too. So, with nothing else being said other than welcome, Michael, here he is.
Hello, Kat.
Hey.
Oh, I'm real pleased to be here with you tonight. This is our time together, I think, is going to be quite informative for everyone, hopefully, but also it's going to be entertaining as well. We're going to sit down, I think you and I, just as if we were at the couch, you know, with our hot toddies or whatever you want to bring along with you. And I think we're going to tell stories. We're going to listen to each other. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
I don't see how it could go any other way.
Definitely.
We're very similar in a lot of ways.
That's what I'm under. My gosh, the paranormal paralegal. You can't beat that.
Very few people know I'm a paralegal, but that's why I love research so much, and that's why I look for, you know, T's crossed and I's dotted.
Yes. Well, obviously, to get that degree and to have that experience, just like lawyers through law school, you have to have the ability to jump across both sides of your brain. You know, that analytical left side and the intuitive right side. You know, I remember this on my first week of law school, Kat. For some reason, they had all of us in the class, the entering class, take a personality test. You know, those 4 basic personalities.
Indeed. I am interested in your results.
Yeah. And this almost caused me to say, hey, I'm in the wrong place, because I tell you what, there were 4 quadrants up on the chalkboard where they kind of put everybody's coded number, you know, in the various quadrants. So no one would know who you were, but you knew who you were because you had your coded number as a result of the survey. And my gosh, I'm sitting there in like this quadrant that's like, there's nobody else there hardly. It's like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of us, and the rest of the folks are in the analytical side, you know, the scientific side, all that kind of stuff. And I was that intuitive kind of guy in this strange thing. Now, the only thing that saved me out of that whole thing that we did for that one class was that my favorite professor that I really enjoyed for the first week of law school admitted that he was in this weird quadrant as well. So that kind of said, oh my gosh, if he can survive, maybe I can. So, yeah.
That is funny. Was it, were you a free thinker?
Oh, yeah. You know, more creative, you know, than analytical. And obviously, when you first enter into the law career, you know, you have some preconceived, ideas of what you're going to be learning and how you're going to learn it and stuff. And basically, that first semester specifically is there just to break your thinking down to mush.
Yep.
Start all over again. It is the most horrific mental boot camp I've ever been through in my life. Literally, I went to the only law school in the United States, Southwestern University in Los Angeles, the oldest private law school in California, where you can go straight through in 2 years rather than the traditional 3 or 4 year program. Yeah, about killed me, literally. Yeah. I ended up the third week of law school in the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. And the poor doctor said, everything tests out fine. Your heart's doing really well. You're just stressed out to the max. Don't worry about it. Take it easy, one step, baby steps is what he told me, and I survived. So, yeah, fascinating experience. But when you get out of that, you realize that just learning the book law in law school is just the beginning. Just like a paralegal learns all the aspects that you need to know, in creating legal documents and representing clients, even in court, because paralegals can now represent clients, through their law office that they're working in. Mm-hmm. But you literally, start from scratch when you go out there, are thrown to the wolves in front of the, court commissioners and opposing counsels out there that don't care that you're just out of the chute. They're just going to do their own thing anyway.
They're going to let you learn by fire.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. And it's very disconcerting initially. And then you realize, hey, these guys, they're not taking anything personally. Matter of fact, they'll go out and have a drink with you afterwards and kind of show you some ropes after a while, if you get to know them well.
I know that the first time that I saw an attorney that I knew representing a criminal case that was extreme, I was so disconcerted. And yes. I was like, how can you do this? How can you do this and sleep at night? He was like, you don't understand. I am not representing him. I'm defending the system. I'm defending our court system. I don't necessarily support him, but he has a right to the best I can do. That's his right. And I was like, well. Still don't like it much, but in about a couple of weeks' time, I wrapped my head around that. It took me a little while. And to accept it as, gospel. And once I had it, it never bothered me anymore. It just kind of was like, you know what? Everybody that enters our court system has rights. And people that are the worst of the worst still have a right to the best representation they can have. So that was something that it's a boondoggle inside your head because nothing competes for a while there. Yeah,
it's almost the old biblical thing as well that, he who without sin casts the first stone. And
totally.
Even the accused needs representation and a full chance to hear the whole story, that kind of thing. So that is hard to get over with initially in law school and when you first get out there. Then again, you get a little bit more jaded, I suppose, yourself when you realize that, your cousin's coming to you with $500 because he just got a DUI and you could use the money.
There's no getting around the fact that starving lawyers should never exist. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a noble profession. I think it's a noble profession. But it is like everything else. You have to weigh out things and you have to eat. Also, you have to take care of families. You have to do what needs to be done. It's not something that's just trashing. I mean, it's a job.
Yeah.
And it is not working the system, but defending, working within the system.
Oh, yeah. you'll ask any prosecutor out there, any friend of yours that you know in the legal system, they totally respect the defense attorneys out there. And those are the guys that help get through those defendants through the process in the most efficient way possible. Otherwise, everybody's going to represent themselves and clog up the legal system. And I was fortunate enough to have a general practice in my 35-year career so far, and get a experience of doing a little bit of everything, kind of like the local GP doctor in a small town. I really enjoyed that and still do.
I would. I mean, I don't practice because, well, I don't work outside the home, but it's just really, really a neat idea. When I met you, when we first started talking relevant to your project, which I'm so glad to be part of, but, it was just such a neat conversation, and I thought, oh, the paranormal lawyer. I'm going to like this guy. Because he talks and because he's interesting. And so that was fun. And I did like you.
Well, thank you, Kat. We just hit it off right away, I think, you and I. And I tell you what, I need to give you all the kudos in the world for helping me pull off the most amazing program that we put on at the beginning of March, just before everything shut down with the coronavirus. We literally, together, you and I and some other real great volunteers, put on this Academy of Paranormal Arts and Sciences Cosmo Awards ceremony with a short, very time of planning it, but literally it came off so well. We had people literally Skyping in from around the world presenting awards in various categories of the paranormal and supernatural. And we had people Skyping in, for instance, Calvin Parker from Pascagoula, Mississippi, actually
Skyping, Calvin,
accepting his award.
Yes.
It was just a wonderful event at the Quinault Beach Resort and Casino when we were able to talk directly with these people that are well-deserved in their areas of research and expertise. Grant Cameron, of course, from Manitoba, Canada. Philip Mantle from the UK and his Lifetime Achievement Award being a researcher. We had James Rickney. Oh, yes. And, in a short period of time, Kat, we were able to draw in some heavyweight folks who literally were aghast that someone took the time to honor them during that ceremony. So I'm real pleased how that and I'm looking forward to next year. Could be a very fun event.
I'm looking forward to being there next year.
Oh, that will be wonderful.
That was just a little bit too short notice for me to get out there, and then the world exploded a little bit. But in retrospect, I guess I'm glad I wasn't flying at that time. So it all worked out. But I was kicking myself for not going ahead and trying, because you had Clifford Mahooty there. And
yes.
I think he is the bee's knees. I just like him so much.
What a great guy.
He's a great person.
A humble Native American Zuni elder who is just so fun to talk with. Yeah, literally, I was able to, after the conference itself, Philip and the alien hunter, Daryl Sims, didn't have to leave right away until the next couple of days. So I got to hang out with them at the casino there, at the hotel and casino, and get to know them really a lot better. And the depth of Philip, of Mr. Mahooty is amazing. The fact that he is literally a environmental engineer, worked for the Housing and Urban Development Organization, the government, for many, many years, helping indigenous tribes navigate the system of government and kind of being a liaison between them and the reservations. Really, really well-learned man, and such a real guy, a real decent guy just to sit down and talk to.
Well, I had that chance in Arizona last summer, and I was so glad I did. He's a great guy. And I was just like, oh, that's pretty neat. When I saw you standing there talking to him when you were doing your lives before. And I was like, I knew I should have gone ahead and flown out there, but I just couldn't manage the plane schedules. So, because it was pretty last minute. I cannot believe you pulled it off in such a fashion. But we have to take our first break. So we will be right back. And y'all, this is fixing to get serious paranormal, so just roll with us. Be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to UFOlogy to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming. To the skeptic, there will never be enough. Hello everyone. Join Kevin and Jennifer Malik, the host of Paraversal Universe, every Friday here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET FM and The Rift. Log on or tune in as they check out the mysteries found within the 8 categories of the unknown and unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, cryptids and monsters, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, metaphysics, and forbidden archaeology. Listen as Kevin and Jennifer interview the top minds in their respective fields as they share theories and information regarding these unsolved mysteries. For future show and archive information, one can find Paraversal Universe on Facebook, Twitter, and MeWe under various Paraversal Universe headings. So, for excellent talk radio about the unknown and unexplained, check out Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society, Ltd., and produced by WBHM-DB.com.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. We are out of Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm so glad you're here because I know you're going to enjoy this conversation. I am already having fun, and we were just talking shop. So Michael W. Hall is my guest. Michael, I'm so glad you're here. This has been already so much fun. That was my time. Now it's for every bit of it's for everybody. So I'm teasing.
Oh, yeah.
But, well, how did you become the paranormal lawyer?
Well, well, before I went to law school, I had always, been interested in all things Fortean and paranormal, supernatural, I was the kid in Sunday school would be asking the weird questions,
Yeah.
What's the deal with this Ezekiel's wheel? Looks awful like a flying saucer to me, that kind of thing. And
so you were the one that made your Sunday school teachers retire.
Yeah. The sweet old lady who's been doing it for decades, and she's just going, it's about time for me to get out of this business, I think, here with these new kids coming along. Of course, that was the 50s, as when I was a kid. So I had always just been interested in those interesting things. And when I was a young kid growing up, I would always gravitate to those those dime novels, that you'd find at garage sales about the contactees, George Adamski and George Van Tassel. And, these are folks back in those days who just didn't mince any words, saying that they were able to talk with people from other planets, potentially out in the desert, when they landed, and talked with them. So those are the kinds of things. And then, of course, you get into all the comic books, as a young kid. And I was just loving that fantasy world that you could spend an entire Saturday morning, with your Superman comic book and get into different spaces in your mind that you never had a chance to go to during the week. And, later on, I got even more serious and ended up becoming, first of all, I think my first major gig in the paranormal was being a field representative for the APRO organization, Aerial Phenomena Research Organization. Jim and Coral Lorenson's group out of Arizona. Dr. James Harder was the chief scientist of the group back then in those days. And then, of course, you get into college and do your normal stuff. I was always a little disappointed in college, Kat, when they actually, at one point when I was a junior, they came to me, my advisor, and said, buddy, you're really going to have to declare a major here one of these days.
I got that lecture.
Yeah.
Everything was so interesting. I took the classes I wanted to take.
Oh, and I was a member of a fraternity, living with a bunch of really interesting guys down there in sorority row with all the other sororities and, the various, aspects of the social, things that go on in college. I literally was the microphone man at the football games. I was just always doing something. And finally they said, well, maybe I'll figure out how to combine all these things I like. I ended up getting a broadcast journalism degree from Edward R. Murrow College of Communications at Washington State University. So at least I could use some of my abilities that I had developed in speaking and being discerning and curious with the idea that I got a degree out of my 5 years there.
But you got it.
Yeah, got it. And thank God I did, because literally in between my junior and senior year, I took an entire year off of school, traveled the world as the master of ceremonies and one of the lead singers for the Up With People group. I don't know if you remember those guys.
I do remember Up With People.
It was just an awesome year of my life, literally. 365 days on the road, 1 and 2 night stands, living out of a suitcase, traveling by Greyhound bus and international air flights around the world. It was just a fascinating experience. We did, as you probably remember, Kat, we did over 5 Super Bowl halftimes as well, and did major live performances on national television. So learning that kind of process really got me excited. And so after college, instead of accepting the only job offer that I was given at the time in the mid-'70s to go work for a very small television reporting station in Twin Falls, Idaho, I ended up going to Los Angeles with my brother, who literally graduated the same year I did because I took a year off. He's a year younger than I am. And we both went to L.A. to become famous like everybody else wanted to in those days. And
still does.
And still does. They literally.
Yes.
He became a quite famous, actually, costumer for the film industry and did, he did the movie Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour. He did the Star Trek films. He was Arnold Schwarzenegger's costumer for many, many years before my brother retired just about 5 years ago from the union. And, of course, was in the Academy of Arts and Sciences and being able to vote for the Oscars as well every year. So that was a fun time to spend about a decade in Hollywood, getting into acting and the music industry and all that stuff before I finally decided, Kat, you know what? I could be doing this probably another 20 years or 30. And I think what I'll do is get a job. And so I went to law school.
It's a good job.
It was fun. I could actually do whatever I wanted to do. Literally opened up my own law office as soon as I graduated. Didn't want to work for somebody else, and never looked back.
Well, that was quite bold. That doesn't surprise me. And it doesn't surprise me that it was successful either.
It was, I was literally 32 years old and decided to start all over again and go to school. Found Southwestern University. That's where literally Marcia Clark, Christopher Darden, the OJ prosecutors went to school. A lot of famous judges and Superior Court and Appeals Court judges went to Southwestern. But literally, it's like, after being out of college and studying for a long time, going back to school, it was like sitting next to 25-year-old literal geniuses that had photographic memories. I'm just going, holy mackerel, this is crazy. And literally, if it hadn't been for a few of my classmates tutoring me through some of the hard times there, I wouldn't have probably made it. But survived. Our class started with 50 people in the 2-year program and literally graduated 33. That's how the attrition went.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And just goes to validate your effort. That's pretty amazing.
Well, thank you. And then obviously now I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm a lawyer now. I can do whatever I want. I can get into environmental law. I can get into personal injury. I can do, family law, estate planning, all those things. So I did all those things. But at the same time, I started representing many of my friends and colleagues in the paranormal fields, supernatural fields, in their legal issues. You're talking when Peter Davenport formed the National UFO Reporting Center, he literally needed to form a nonprofit organization or a business entity. And so a lot of folks like that are, quite well known in the industry that they are in. They have no clue about how to literally go about doing the legal aspects that need to be done. And so I was able to bring that to the table to many of my friends over the years. Dr. James Harder was a client of mine. Dr. Richard Haynes from the NARCAP Pilot Reporting Agency over the years. And of course, all the way up till the new guys that are coming around the corner now with the Chief Petty Officer Kevin Day and the Nimitz UFO encounter veterans as well, and Gary Voorhees and all those guys that experienced the Tic Tac UFOs in 2004. So it's been an incredible ride. And I'll tell you what, Kat, as you can well imagine, as you know right now, this is the most amazing time in our planet's existence, as far as I can tell, that we should have been born to experience what's going on here. There are so many new things going on, so many changes, and the consciousness level, I think, is rising so quickly on the planet that it's just remarkable to be alive and to be in the midst of things.
I would agree with that. And, when we were talking, is it okay to talk about the people that are with UAPx?
Oh, yeah. Great guys. And they really have given me the authority. Even though I do have the attorney-client privilege, I've always asked them, what can we talk about? What would you like me to talk about? They said, get the word out. Tell people we are going back out to the coast off the San Diego coast, Catalina Island. We're going to look for those Tic Tac UFOs again coming up this winter.
Well, you and I talked a little bit about that, and I was so pleased that you were doing that, but I had some questions about it too that were satisfactorily answered. I'm not going to go back into those because I think that might, I don't have anything negative about this. I think it is the best thing ever. But not only do you have Kevin, who is coming forward on his own to say, okay, we're going to step away from the drama and the shenanigans and whatever, and we're going to do straight science, factual-based information about what I experienced and what these guys experienced, and we're going to bring in the best of the best to do this. And they brought in Deep Prasad as their science officer, and that is huge. That is, for those who don't know, Deep was out of Toronto, voted one of the top 20 under 20 to watch. I like him. I have followed him on Twitter, UFO Twitter, for ages. I guess a couple of years now. And the information that he shares, the information that his peers share through that, is really interesting. I think that's kind of cool. That is who was chosen for this position. Because it's not necessarily where a lot of people would have gone. And that Deep chose to be there is serious.
Exactly. Deep is the vice president, one of the vice presidents of UAPx, Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Expedition that they've put together. Helped them form the nonprofit corporation that they're operating under. And can you imagine I can't imagine in my 20s being the top 20, under 20 of anything, let alone the entire, the scientists out there that are under 20 that people are going, this guy is a sharp scientist and is willing to obviously delve into the idea of UAP, UFOs, and the idea that these things, well, the Navy has come out now literally and formally said that these things are indeed unidentified. They exist. There's no argument about that. And now we need to get all the equipment and gear together that each one of the folks in the UAPx organization brings to the table, and go back out again and see if we can do a better job. I mean, of course, the FLIR 1 radar system that they had on the Princeton and the Nimitz back in those days was top of the line. That's why they found these things, I believe, and that's what Kevin is saying anyway, because of the brand new system that they had installed that basically had skipped over everything before that. So in 2004, Kevin was finding in November, starting around November 4th or so, flights of 5 and 10 at a time of these tic-tac shaped, 46-foot long, by the way, UAPs that seem to be going 100 miles an hour over the surface of the ocean at about 28,000 feet. And by the way, this is an interesting idea that we found out after the event, that literally the whale migrations were happening at the same time that these waves of UFOs were being spotted.
When I first found that out, I was thinking of the Star Trek film.
Yeah.
Where they came back and found the whales and Spock, bonded with them. So, but do you think that the only reason I ask or have a doubt about it is that they were with the Roosevelt also over on the Atlantic coast? The Roosevelt and the Nimitz were both made public.
Right.
And in both instances, there were more than a few of these aerial craft, and they seemed to stay with the exercises. Did Kevin feel that they were more interested in what the military was doing, or were they there for environmental purposes? I mean, it just is so interesting to ponder.
Yes. Of course, you're talking about two different events. The one on the West Coast was, 2004, and the one on the East Coast was 2015. And the one on the West Coast that Kevin Day was the initial observation officer of, literally, Kevin is saying that, you know what? It seemed that as if they were not even interested in the military exercises that they were putting on out there on the southwest of San Diego, down by Baja, Mexico there. It was almost as if they just wanted to be left alone, he was saying, and that they were more interested in something else, potentially the whales.
Right.
And of course, when at one point when they actually were doing a maneuver, an exercise, where Commander Fravor and then his wingman, which was a experienced woman pilot, by the way, his wingman, went up on that one time during the Tic Tac maneuvers. They decided to vector Commander Fravor and the wingman to that area to check it out. And that's when it really got interesting as far as the details that they observed and the flight characteristics that were totally impossible for anything that at least Commander Fravor was saying possible at the time.
That's just fascinating.
Yeah.
One of the things that blows me away with the whole scenario is that with the responsiveness of these craft, when they got a radar lock and then all of a sudden, well, I don't think so, and just hard left and gone. When they talked about this afterwards, and people do, I was just curious. I would have liked to have been in that wardroom, to hear what was going on.
Oh, can you imagine? Yeah.
Just the audio released from the in the moment discussion was interesting enough. But I would have liked to, because that the other pilots are razzing them because they couldn't catch them. So that's just what pilots do. But, but it would just have been so interesting to hear the after report. I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall for that.
Well, and the interesting part of that is that when Commander Fravor and his wingman pilot, with their two Wizzos, by the way, the Weapons Information Service officers in the back seats of both of those FA-18s, when they both landed back on the Nimitz and literally are going to debriefing, he runs across Commander Fravor the next flight of trainees that are going back up, very experienced pilots. And he tells his buddy who's going back up again, he says, hey, you got to check these things out. See if you can find the same thing we got. And I didn't have, matter of fact, Commander Fravor says, I didn't have any capability of recording on FLIR photography or anything like that, what I saw. So he said, do you have your FLIR ready? He says, I'm ready. And literally that was the second pilot that went up after Commander Fravor, who literally caught the Tic Tac on the FLIR photography that we see all over the internet now. So that was the second flight that went up there. But yeah, you can imagine the ribbing that Fravor got until the videotape came back of the FLIR stuff that really proved to everyone what the heck was really going on out there.
Right. Well, I am so fascinated by this, but we have to take another break. This is going way too fast, but we'll be right back. Y'all come back too.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio. I am so glad that you're here because this is a fascinating discussion. I have been amazed by Kevin Day. If you haven't read his book, you need to go get it. It's on Amazon, and it is fantastic. So, Kevin is the radar man who picked up on the UFOs featured in the Tic Tac videos that were released apparently without permission, but we're not going there. And it's just amazing. And Kevin has started his own organization, the UAPx, and Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Expeditions. And I can't wait to see what they bring back. He has put together a fantastic team. They're all the best in their fields, I think, in my opinion. I'm pretty positive that's right, because they are, trust me. It's just fun. I love watching somebody come back because Kevin had a very difficult time after all of this came out. And he has come back. I think he might still have some issues every so often when people are, kind of a putz. But he is smart, or he wouldn't have had that job. He is honest. He is who you see is who you get. And I think that he is going to be going gangbusters with his team getting this information, and I can't wait to see the results. So, Michael, how did you connect with Kevin?
Actually, I think it was through my our mutual friend and my client, Grant Cameron, who alerted me of Kevin's idea to actually put together a group of scientists, Silicon Valley executives and those kinds of folks to really put some heavyweight muscle behind the idea of going back out looking for these Tic Tac UFOs again. And that's kind of how I got started. So I was kind of referred, when you're the paranormal lawyer out there, there's not a whole lot of competition. And so, as you well can imagine, so when people learn of the fact that there's this lawyer out there you might want to talk to, he's very versed in the law, but he's also very up on the paranormal and the Fortean as well. So that's kind of how it worked. And of course, we hit it off right away. Kevin lives in Oregon, not too far from the state of Washington, where I live up here in the Seattle area. I think we can kind of commiserate being Pacific Northwesters as well. And then, of course, his fellow veterans are literally from around the United States and different parts of the world that he's pulled together to basically come up with a super stellar group that, by the way, as you probably know by now, Kat, there are various cable channels out there vying for the idea that they want to do a mini series on these guys' preparations and expedition to go back out again with their research ships and the gear that they're bringing along. So I've been helping them kind of, myself and Dave Altman, the Hollywood representative, agent, has been helping them kind of get through the morass of all of that as well, having Hollywood contracts thrown at them and getting into the details, make sure that they're not giving up any proprietary information that they can't own after the productions, that kind of thing. So it's quite fascinating what's going on. The idea being, I think, even with this social distancing issue, I think people will be very interested to find out at least what one group of very high-level, sophisticated scientists will be able to find when they go back out there again.
Well, you know what? I think that being able to maintain proprietary control is such a big deal because that happens a lot in that industry, specifically relevant to these topics, in the majorly anomalous topics. So I think that's going to. I'm so glad that they have you and Dave working with them.
Yeah, it's very disconcerting to people that aren't into the legal contracts of Los Angeles and Hollywood, and many times these production companies they're not really versed of all the ins and outs of their own contracts. So, as an attorney trying to get the best deal for your own clients in any kind of production matter, you basically got to go through them with a fine-tooth comb, as you well know, being the paranormal paralegal, and making sure they're protected, with the idea that, hey, we've got, here's a great example. We've got one guy, Dave Mason, on our UAPx group. He's a real techie scientist guy who runs his own high-tech firm in Washington State here. He's also a member of the UFOiTEAM that I founded and direct as well. And he literally has invented a pair of high-power, highly sophisticated binoculars that will turn light frequency into sound. And literally we can then take that sound frequency and put it onto an oscilloscope, technical gear, and we can determine if indeed this is an anomalous light source or not. Is this just a star in the night sky? Is this a shooting star, a satellite? Is this a commercial airliner? Those kinds of things. And so in reality, you have to protect those proprietary gear that these people are bringing to the table to make sure that they don't lose their copyright and patent controls, because a lot of these contracts are very onerous. They say whatever we do in this project here ends up becoming our property, as the production company. So that's what you kind of have to keep watching out for. And by the way, let me just finish that binocular story real quick, because you're going to love this, Kat. The idea that once we determine there is an anomalous object that doesn't fit any oscillations that are known, Dave Mason will be able to take that sound frequency, turn it back into light, and literally broadcast it back to the source that's giving off the light. The classic CE5 scenario.
Yes.
I mean, you can imagine being an anomalous UFO, UAP, traversing the planet Earth and near Earth atmosphere. And all of a sudden you realize that, oh my gosh, someone on the ground is sending back to you your own specific light signature in waveform. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, the kids have found the matches. They know who we are. And so we are really
kind
excited.
Of like that. That's cool, though.
Oh, it is. And we are really excited to bring this technology to the UAPx expedition to go back out to potentially lock in on some of these Tic Tac UFOs to get more scientific data on that. And, I think we've got enough time, just the next couple of minutes, to explain the rest of the story regarding those whale migrations at the time. Okay, when I found out from Kevin Day that literally, for some coincidence, I don't know, these Tic Tac UFOs were appearing at the same time that the whale migrations were happening off of the Catalina Island coast, I told Dave Mason, my techie guy at the UFOiTEAM, I said, Dave, could it be possible for you to broadcast whale sounds into the night sky?
Well, sure it is.
And he said, of course. And I'm going, oh my. He says, well, you're not going to believe this. Kevin Day says that there might be a correlation there. So literally, Kevin Day, along with one of our other highly technical guys on the UFOiTEAM, Lee Strauss, got together and they literally started broadcasting whale and dolphin sounds into the night sky right from their backyard in Seattle, Washington. And what happened is, Kat, you're not going to believe this. Literally in their FLIR photography, night vision, gear, they are capturing UFOs that are shaped like Tic Tacs in response to these sounds for some reason.
Goodness.
It's blowing us away. So anyway, the idea
blowing them away too, that they're over a landmass and not over the ocean. They're probably surprised too.
Exactly, because this is a diffused laser system. It's not a pinpoint laser, but it's diffused enough that we can aim it in a certain direction. And of course, we don't aim it directly at the object, but in their vicinity. And in reality, you're right. They can track those emanations of whale sounds right back down to Seattle, Washington, and the fact that it's from some guy's backyard and not anywhere near Puget Sound.
I mean, that must give them pause, right? I think that's brilliant, though. I'm pretty amazed, actually, that all of this is coming together in this fashion. It's just like it's supposed to be.
It is. You get enough creative.
Things are just falling into place.
I think so. It's that synchronicity thing that if you make that bold move to step out of your comfort zone, and like Deep Prasad has done as a scientist, all of a sudden you kind of feed off of each other with technology and the right brain creativity as well. Things are coming up that I don't know that anybody has ever thought of or tried before to literally obtain the scientific data that is maybe repeatable, but definitely analyzable to figure out what kind of data are we getting when we bring this equipment back out into the field and can attack these problems in a multidimensional aspect and see if there's anything to be learned from them.
Well, out of curiosity, y'all have a camera crew of your own, right, that is going to be documenting this should you opt out of a television deal?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Just wanted to make sure, because if you didn't, I know a great production company out there. So.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we'll have to communicate about that, because literally we're exploring all of our options in that regard, because as you well know, Kat, when you go out for sky watches with technical gear, there is so much that can go wrong. Literally, batteries will just drain before your very eyes. You might be totally prepared, you think, for what you're trying to obtain on tape and in your scientific gear, and all of a sudden you're stuck with no data, because there is literally a battery problem or a camera problem, shuts down just on you. So we're trying to build in some redundancy, of course, for those capabilities, because this is a one-shot thing for UAPx. Maybe we can garner enough interest if we get the scientific data we think we're going to get to go back out on a periodic basis and really show folks what we're doing. But in reality, we're treating it as a one-shot deal. We're going to go out and do whatever we can to obtain the scientific data that we can.
Well, I have no doubt that you're going to be so successful with that. Everything that I feel about this is that it's going to be such a success. And the only thing that I was concerned about was recreating the environment, because if it's the whales, that's not a difficult thing to do, because you can follow their migratory route. But if it were the military that they were being drawn to, the activity of the craft, then that would be hard to do in a civilian status. So
yes.
I think it's going to be amazing, though. And we are going to our top of the hour break. I can't believe we've already gone an hour. This is fantastic. But everyone listening, thank you so much. This is the time. Fill up your beverage container, whether it's a stein, a mug, whatever floats your boat. I will let you know that we're going to be gone about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. But maybe we'll find some good news, right? Maybe. We'll see you on the flip side.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who has COVID-19, has been admitted to the hospital for tests. NPR's Frank Langfitt has more from London.
Number 10 Downing Street emphasized this was a precautionary step, not an emergency admission, done on the advice of the Prime Minister's doctor, because Johnson has persistent symptoms 10 days after testing positive. There's been widespread concern about the Prime Minister's condition. Johnson, 55, has not spoken live on television since his diagnosis, only issuing short video messages from his cell phone and stepping outside his door last week to cheer on British health workers while appearing noticeably unwell. The BBC reports the Prime Minister has sustained a high fever during his illness. Downing Street says Johnson remains in charge of the British government. Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, who would step in for Johnson if he can't fulfill his duties, will chair tomorrow morning's coronavirus meeting. Frank Langfitt, NPR News, London.
An association representing the nation's hospitals is pushing back after President Trump said that hospital administrators are thrilled with their supply levels to handle the coronavirus pandemic. NPR's Sarah McCammon has more.
Speaking at the White House, President Trump said the federal government is taking an active role in allocating supplies like ventilators. He made this claim without citing evidence.
Many hospital administrators that we've been in touch with, even in the really hot spots, you know what they are communicating directly with us that their level of supplies are meeting essential needs, and at the current time, they're really thrilled to be where they are.
In a statement to NPR, a spokeswoman for the American Hospital Association pushed back, saying, quote, "Not a day goes by where we don't hear from hospitals and health systems across the country that are concerned about shortages of personal protective equipment." She said hospitals also are concerned about drug shortages. Sarah McCammon, NPR News.
New York is reporting more optimistic coronavirus numbers, but health professionals warn against making assumptions from one day's worth of data. Charles Lane from member station WSHU reports the state is getting conflicting models about how the virus will progress.
Governor Andrew Cuomo says the top minds in the world are giving him conflicting projections.
They will not give you a direct answer on anything. We don't know.
Some models show a V-shaped curve, others show a plateau with a prolonged period of death and social isolation. Apart from the science, Cuomo says normalcy won't come until faster tests are developed en masse.
It's under development now, the rapid testing, and we're part of it. But that is going to be the answer, I believe.
New York is testing about 18,000 people a day. So far, less than 2% of the state's population has been tested. For NPR News, I'm Charles Lane in New York.
And you're listening to NPR News from Washington. In northern Mexico, at least 19 people were killed in a shootout between rival drug kings. As NPR's Carrie Kahn reports, the clash happened in the border state of Chihuahua, and it's the latest sign that organized crime violence isn't abating, despite the coronavirus quarantine ordered throughout the country.
Chihuahua State's prosecutor says police and soldiers found 18 dead bodies at the scene of the shootout, as well as guns, vehicles, and 2 grenades. 2 other wounded men were found nearby on a dirt road. One was taken to a local hospital and later died. The other man is in custody. Authorities believe the confrontation was between factions of the Sinaloa and Juarez cartels, fighting for control of the northern border state. Despite an emergency health decree in Mexico and a nationwide shutdown, organized crime violence continues at alarming rates. Last month was the most violent in the 16 months of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador's administration, with an average of 86 murders a day. Carrie Kahn, NPR News, Mexico City.
In a rare address about the coronavirus pandemic, Queen Elizabeth urged people to exercise self-discipline in an increasingly challenging time and self-isolate to save lives. The Queen thanked British healthcare workers and compared the separation of families in self-isolation to the similar separations that took place during World War II. Britain is now the hotspot of the virus in Europe after a record 24-hour jump in deaths that surpassed even hard-hit Italy. I'm Janine Herbst, and you're listening to NPR News from Washington.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I'm so glad you're here. You know, this has been such a fascinating discussion so far. I can't believe we're already through the first hour. When I first had the opportunity to talk with Michael, I knew that this was going to be a good mix. We had the same interests and a lot of differing information, but it all comes together kind of in a fantastic way. I am lucky that he is here. If you have any questions, I just want to let you know that you can be listening to us on fatemag.com, which is the online presence for Fate Magazine. You can look at past issues. You can look at the current issue. If you're not subscribed, you should be. It's awesome. And we have a chat over there. If you want to, you can just go ahead and put your information or questions in it, and we'll be glad to get them to Michael. If you're listening through your mobile device on Spreaker, well, we have a chat room over there. I monitor both of those. I am interested if you have a question in being sure that he gets it. And it's just amazing. I'm having a great time. And I am waiting on him to join me.
I'm back.
Oh, he is back. Yay, my hero.
I left you dancing alone, but I was actually here, so.
That's okay. I have had to do a solo show for 2 hours at one point. It was not expected, which made it that much more fun.
Right.
So nothing like, somebody's audio doesn't work and it's just like, oh, I'm so sorry. So I am really looking forward to learning more about your expeditions, because are you going to be participating with them?
Oh, I certainly am. The paranormal lawyer doesn't want to be a landlubber on this kind of a project for sure. Literally, of course, I don't have the sea legs that these veteran Navy guys have, so I'm going to have to maybe bring my Dramamine with me. I don't know what the coast out there in the Pacific Ocean is quite rough indeed.
The Pacific is powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. But we will indeed have probably a land base as well on Catalina Island, where we can use that as potentially a place where we can have some gear at the same time. And then having what we're attempting to have is 2 ships right now with our electronic and video gear in 2 different locations. So we can actually have kind of a triangulation effect, when we go out there and follow what we find. And, the idea being that we've got night vision, FLIR photography, stop action. We've got all sorts of gear that will sense the atmospheric molecules and all of those kinds of things that are going on at the time. One of the things that we're making sure that we can cover as well is the possibility that someone could be jamming our capabilities or signals out there. And so we're going to bring along some anti-jamming devices ourselves so that we can make sure that we're going to get the real stuff out there. We don't want someone, for instance, to broadcast to us something that sounds anomalous or looks anomalous on our gear, and it turns out to be something later on that they say, oh, we did that, you guys were fooled, that kind of thing. So we're keeping that in mind as well in our multi-prong approach to gathering real scientific data.
That is interesting. Out of curiosity, I spoke with a gentleman that I met in Arizona last year, and he has equipment that he uses for ufology research, and the site and the equipment is called DAP, D-A-P. I actually saw it in use on one of the shows on Travel A&E. I'm not sure which show it was, but the man's name is Christopher O'Brien.
Yeah, Josh Gates' production. I saw that same one. I'm very excited about what he's got.
Well, I'm going to tell you that I got to see it up close and personal at the UFO Congress, and that is that may be something, especially for the land-based unit, that would be an absolute joy to have, because it measures everything, and the capabilities of the reporting are just mind-boggling. So that might be somebody that you would be interested in, at least for the land-based side, because you can never have too much information.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. I remember actually appearing on that episode of Josh Gates's Expedition or Unknown X, or what was it? Expedition X, I believe, episode. And they actually had the same gear on there as well. Mm-hmm. And the gentleman who invented it, I didn't have any way of contacting him. So that would be fun to be able to at least tell him or coordinate with what we're doing, see if he would be interested. That'd be fascinating stuff.
Well, I will send you his contact information, because he is an amazing researcher.
Wonderful.
And he is actually, I believe, living in the Sedona area now. So not far from LA.
There you go.
So anyway, just thought I'd toss that out there.
Well, thank you for that. That's wonderful.
I was knocked out by his equipment. When I was visualizing it going into a paranormal investigation, he was like, "What?" I said, "Well, look at what all you have on here. This would be perfect for a paranormal investigation. You can, it's recording everything, environmental, everything." So he thought that was a little funny.
Electromagnetic effects, video, audio. It's just fascinating, the thing that he has crammed into this one instrument.
And you can pretty much make it give you what you want.
Yeah.
It is very versatile. So when you were talking about land-based and stuff, I thought, I don't know about a marine application, but I think that for a land-based application, it would be perfect. It would be great with a marine also, but I don't know about the motion.
Yeah, right. Good point. We'd have to ask.
Yes. So electronics behave differently in different environments. And if you're talking about your Dramamine, well, we don't have that for them yet. So, we have to kind of make do. But, well, where would you like to go now? Because we have some questions. I was actually going to save them toward the end. Or we can go ahead and do those, or you can talk more about your projects.
Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, let me just say, Kat, that it's just an amazing synchronicity, I think, that we have hooked up together at this time. Literally, this is a unique time on the entire planet, not just the United States. This is I don't know anybody that has lived through the idea that the entire world is in a lockdown situation. The entire world now is hunkered down, and probably for the first time in our at least recent history, forced to be able to communicate with one another in alternative ways, probably thinking about things that we hadn't been able to think about because we just didn't have the time or the inclination to. So it's fun for me to be able to use the abilities that we have with, video and social media and audio and everything to be able to get out there with what we know, what we've heard, and what our clients are doing so that we can raise this level of consciousness, I think, much quicker this way. That could be one of the positive unintended consequences of this entire lockdown thing, is that people are communicating more about interesting subjects now and learning things much faster than they ever would have been able to do in the past.
Well, I am finding that to be true. And I'm also interested in the different generations' take on this situation. Because I'm old. I have a great time because I don't care anymore. It's a wonderfully liberating mindset. But, I'm at home. I'm at home with my dogs. My husband is an essential supplier for different fields that we have to have. And so he is still working. much to my chagrin, I would much prefer him stay in one place. But he's like, I have to do this. It's my job. So
Right.
I have a lot of time alone with the dogs. And I have finished projects that I have been procrastinating about. I have learned different musics. I mean, there's so much. The people that get me are younger than me. This is my first time to have to sit still too, right? So
Yeah.
it's really funny because people my children's age are pretty okay, but maybe not so much because, I have to be in the house. I have to do this. Well, the ones that aren't are the reason that we're probably going to face a martial law situation if they don't cool their jets. But, then you have the ones that are just, oh my God, this is so hard. I can't be home. I can't be cooped up. What they can't be is still. I would love to hear Clifford's opinion on that topic, wouldn't you?
Oh, that would be interesting.
I think so too.
An American Zuni elder, for sure. I have, like yourself, I have raised now adult children. My oldest is almost 40, and my youngest is 21, 22 now. And so I've got a big span of 4 children that came along at different times during our, last few decades. And I'll tell you what, the younger people on the planet are not having a problem adapting to this whole idea. I don't think as much as the older baby boomers like myself, are, because literally I remember my kids becoming age where they could drive their car, right? To get a license and get around the neighborhood and go visit friends and those kinds of things. And literally most of them were not in any rush at all to get a driver's license. That was the first thing I wanted to do as a kid, be able to go to the local Dairy Queen or whatever and hang out with everybody and, make sure that I was involved in what the hip thing was at the time. But these kids, these younger generations, they are so connected to their peers 24/7 right now that literally they don't have to go places as much as we did back in those
That's
formative
true.
years.
I had not looked at it from that perspective.
Yeah, and literally they are developing relationships in this social media with their friends, with people from around the world. Doesn't matter that their own high school buddies or school chums are people that they want to get involved with. I know my son, who's a real techie wizard in the music industry, literally has got contracts and clients and people that he's dealing with around the world and across the United States that literally they do things in corroboration with one another over the social media and internet that is just astounding that you don't have to have close proximity at all to accomplish. So, and of course, as you well see out there in social media, the industries, the musicians,
that's the best part.
The things are just burgeoning right now. I mean, my goodness, I have been able to. Oh, let me give you this one great example. Literally, there is this cell phone choir out of Nashville, Tennessee, that has phenomenal music that they've been putting together. This happens to be faith-based, hymns, musical hymns that I've been listening to, and I'm just going, oh my goodness, the talent that these people have. And probably have not been able to showcase because literally they can't go on the road any longer. They're not doing concerts with their main actors and musicians, and so they banded together, and it's called the Nashville Cell Phone Choir. You got to check those guys out. And I'm just really enjoying all the musical performances, the literally Broadway plays and stage performances now that are all over the internet that I would never have been able to probably afford or be able to go see in person on Broadway that we're being able to look at as well.
Well, that is the best part of this, I think. I got to watch a concert by Aaron Neville.
Oh, my.
And, just him from his living room piano.
Oh, no. What a great opportunity.
I know, right? And, a friend of mine was doing it. Did like a watch party from there. And I was like, oh, my goodness. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for inviting me. But I've been seeing the musicals, and I believe I have seen the choir that you're discussing, because they're all in their own room. They're all playing their own instrument in their own space.
Exactly.
I just think it's amazing. Now, in that aspect, they are adaptable. We're going to have to take a break. But we'll be right back, and we'll continue this discussion, and we'll bring your questions. And this is fun. I'm so glad you're here. We'll be right back.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio. I'm so glad you're here because you know what? This has been one of the best discussions ever. I have Michael Hall here with me, and he is a little bit of everything, including the Paranormal Lawyer. He is working with UAPx, which if you haven't heard about them yet, you're about to. Right here. They're fantastic. The team is amazing. And, you know, you mentioned that you had gotten connected with Kevin through Grant. Grant is an amazing man. He is just an amazing person. I love his writing. I love his idea about downloads because that is so true. I really like everything about his work. I'm fortunate that I've been able to interview him as well. And he was fascinating. When I got to meet him face to face, it was just like, oh, well, hello. I have read almost everything you've written, and I think that you're fantastic. And he was like, well, who are you? I said, you've spoken with me on my radio show. I'm Kat Hobson of Paranormal Experienced. And he was like, oh, yes, I have. And he's just wonderful. Great person.
Yes, Grant Cameron is the old family friend that you've probably known for decades. That when you finally meet him, it's like you've known him forever. Mm-hmm. And of course, he's the guy, the ultimate mole researcher out there that's gone to every single United States presidential library in the country and dug down deep to find out what politicians and the presidents actually knew and know about UFOs. And of course, he is the gentleman who literally was given by James Rigney out of Australia the Admiral Wilson Core Secrets Smoking Gun Memo of the Century, that Richard Dolan is calling it. The idea that I think probably when a decade goes by or more, we'll be looking back on that one document, 15 pages long, single space with chock full of information and confirmations of the idea that UFOs exist. Potentially the crash at Roswell, New Mexico happened and alien bodies were recovered, both dead and alive. All sorts of phenomenal things that are in this document that literally Grant called me up immediately as soon as he received that document from James Rigney. And we ended up wrestling with it for about 6 months prior to trying to vet it, making sure that it wasn't a hoax, and trying to figure out if it was classified, whether we could release it or not. And finally, then, at one point, it was actually released by an unknown third party on Twitter and literally went worldwide. So fascinating subjects that we're dealing with that literally the New York Times changed it all on December 16th of 2017 with their front page above the fold article confirming for the first time in history that indeed UAPs UFOs are existing out there, and we don't know what they are.
That was astounding. I know that when I saw that, I was like, yes. I can't believe they actually printed that. I was just like,
And coming from the New York Times, Kat, that is like the most, conservative, always bashing, the people that are out there, with woo-woo stories, not only at the New York Times, but the Washington Post and Politico came out on the very same day with their own versions of the story, including the embedded gun camera footage of the Tic Tac UFOs as well. So that's a game changer. It happened just a short period of time ago. And in reality, everybody is now talking about the idea, including the Navy, who recently just came out and said, those Tic Tac UFOs are not any of our technology or even foreign technology. They are literally unidentified.
Well, yes. But we had that secret program that we put all those millions into to try to, that was nothing. That was not even a drop in a federal bucket.
Yes.
And
exactly.
I mean, they were not serious.
People need to keep that in mind, that $22 million for a study over a 5-year period of time involving Robert Bigelow from the NIDS, National Institute of Discovery Science in Bass Aerospace Foundation, to give them funds to not only investigate UFOs, but how about Skinwalker Ranch? That was a major deal as part of this funding that Senator Harry Reid garnered to study the paranormal. So, my gosh, when the federal government is now, and we all know that they've been doing this for decades, studying the phenomena, the phenomenology they call it. But literally, when they've coming out now and confirmed the idea that they're doing this, that is a whole new game changer.
Well, it is. And, speaking of Skinwalker, I had no idea why Bigelow was getting out of that, right? I thought that maybe something had happened that made him uncomfortable. But there's a lot there to make you uncomfortable. But I was fascinated to see Travis Taylor sporting around up there in the first episode of, the name escapes me, of the show.
Unidentified.
Nope, not Unidentified. There's a whole new Skinwalker series.
Yes.
And he is the researcher in that. So, and I like and admire him so much. I think that he is also a brilliant scientist. I think he's just a good old guy that's got a great brain, knows how to use it, and got the documentation and certifications and degrees to back it up. But it was fun watching his reaction because they were getting, he is not a woo-woo guy at all. I mean,
right.
The thing that got him all excited about Mars was that he got to, go four-wheeling in the Mars rover out in Texas. Right? So that to him, that is him, from what I can tell. But I think that stuff is just amazing. But we're going to have to do a couple of these questions because they are backing up on me. I'm not going to be able to just do in the last little bit. First of all, Carl would like to know the best way or a good place for insurance for paranormal teams. And you and I had talked during the break about me trying to get a bond so that I would be covered going into private homes for residential investigations. And State Farm had no idea. So what would somebody do in that circumstance? Where would you look?
That's a good question. And it's kind of like that, those commercials that you see on television, like maybe they need to go to Farmers, right? They know a lot because they've seen a lot, those kinds of things.
I like that, yeah.
So you kind of shop around, of course, with your local representatives and seeing if everybody has that capability of insurance covering the various aspects of it. But, a lot of it has to do, Coral, with how you approach the agent and the company that you're trying to get the insurance from. For instance, if you're going to tell them that you're going to go on a ghost hunt and you want to get insurance to cover that for any possible contingency, they might balk at something like that. If indeed you show them a contract that your friendly paranormal lawyer has drafted for you, that shows that in reality, this is just the owner of a piece of property allowing you access to a piece of property for investigative work, and you don't have to necessarily tell them you're going after ghosts. Then all of a sudden they realize that, people are entering someone else's property. They need to be covered for accidents, unintentional or otherwise. And the idea being that, liability insurance for a normal insurance company is something they do all the time. If you can put it kind of in their little square box or square hole, they're more than willing to deal with you. Obviously, they want to get the premiums on something like that as well. Obviously, and there's also other things you can do. You could, for instance, take out a term life insurance policy for the specific event on a specific person, for instance, that would cover just general liability things if something went wrong, that literally, would cover monetary damages and those kinds of things if there's various ways of protecting, yourself for those damage claims. And of course, I always go back to the idea that you need to have some decent contracts that are, non-disclosure agreements, liability limitation agreements, where people literally know that this is what you're going to intend to do on their property or on public property, and get the permission of those property owners before you go in. That contract in itself can be limiting as far as damages and liability if it's crafted correctly.
There you go. I'm sure that Carl is going to be getting that done. They are some good investigators. He sent me some pictures of that they got on one of their investigations, and I was pretty amazed. Let's see. I'm going to guess that this is going to answer a lot of this, but Sherry would like to know what kind of cases you've worked on as a paranormal lawyer. She never knew that was a thing.
Yeah, it's not so much paranormal cases, although there have been many unique paranormal cases out there in history that a lot of people don't know about. Most of the work that I do for paranormal investigators and researchers and scientists is kind of the mundane legal aspects that you would have to do just to do anything, form the business entities, to limit liability if something should happen and someone maybe sues them and wants to protect their personal property, maybe their home and that kind of stuff from being attached if they had a judgment against them. Those kinds of things. I even had Peter Davenport at one point ask me to be involved in his purchase of an abandoned Nike missile site in eastern Washington.
Really?
Literally, there is a whole string of abandoned missile sites that are ringing the northern tier of the United States, and some of them are in eastern Washington. And Peter thought it would be a great idea to be able to have an underground missile site to be able to move his National UFO Reporting Center database to, obviously to keep it protected and those kinds of things. So that's just a strange thing that we did with normal real estate contracts, doing that. But there are cases out there. For instance, there are cases where people literally have used haunted houses, for instance. The fact that a house is actually haunted to rescind a real estate contract. How about that?
I have been aware of some of those.
Yeah, and that's pretty much in every MLSA form nowadays as far as the real estate documents go, where if you don't disclose certain facts, for instance, if someone passed away on a piece of property, that needs to be disclosed in many states and jurisdictions. And also the famous Stembovsky case out of the district court in New York back at the turn of the century was the very first case that literally ruled that since this house during the trial was literally with testimony and evidence proven to be actually haunted, that they were able to rescind the contract on purchasing this old mansion because it was haunted as a matter of law. Can you imagine the judge who made that ruling back then in the District Court of New York? The idea that indeed, if a house can be proved to be actually haunted, that would give you grounds to rescind the contract if you wanted to. Although some people are going, wait a minute, I want that house.
That is a money maker.
Yes.
I tell you what, that is hilarious, because if you go through New Orleans, well, you'll look down an alleyway or wherever and you'll see a for rent sign and it says haunted or not haunted.
Interesting.
It is. And I think the haunted ones go faster than the non. But
yes,
it is. New Orleans is its own little world, though. I tell you what, and you never know as you're walking by if you're, walking with a spirit or if you're walking with a person. It's so weird. And if you look up to the rooftops and the upper balconies and stuff, you'll see people moving around up there in abandoned houses. So it's a cool place from a paranormal standpoint.
Oh, it is. I literally spent quite a few years in New Orleans myself, as one of my longtime girlfriends was one of the queens of the Olympus Ball, during
fun.
The whole debutante era, in the 80s. And literally I was able to visit and be a part of the Mardi Gras celebrations for the Olympus Ball And I just was amazed at the history and the tradition that they have in that unique area of the planet that cannot be explained unless you go there.
It really can't. People just think it's the drunken nature of the gras and stuff. The gras is not just about being wasted. It is such an elegant, the part that you experienced was very elegant. And, you know, I have a girlfriend who was queen of her society last year, so she had to be there to crown the new queen this year. And she was like, but she doesn't get my tiara because I bought that. Oh. I said, well, there you go.
And
but, you know, it's really funny how people don't perceive that side of it at all. It's just the drunken nature.
No, the traditions that go back hundreds, if not thousands of years, you know, that are brought over from various parts of, you know, the planet that have been melded into the New Orleans culture. It's just fascinating stuff. There is a group down there, a society down there that is so close knit that it's just amazing. Once you have the opportunity to be exposed to that, you just are in awe with the traditions that they carry on for generations upon generations that do not even change.
You participated in part of that.
Oh my, I wrote an entire book on my participation at Mardi Gras as an outsider kid from Seattle, Washington, literally being whisked down to New Orleans and put in a tuxedo for a full week and being limousined around the French Quarter and all these various, ball sites to, because there's the whole court. It's not just the queen. There's like your entire court that goes along with you, and there's all these traditions you have to follow. And I had no clue, just as a newbie out of the ballpark. And my girlfriend's 4 brothers took me under their wing and basically got me through an entire week of a drunken stupor that I don't think I'll ever forget.
And yet you were still there, and I bet you hit every lick that you were supposed to. I have no doubt.
I did my very best, including the literally tableau. At one point, they take you down into the basement of the ballroom where literally you are dressed up in a Harlequin outfit with white tights and short knickers and a mask that you think would cover up your identity. And in reality, the escort to the queen is all over the program. They know exactly who you are. And literally you have to follow this script of a tableau that is put on in front of thousands of people at the ball that you have no clue what you're doing. Of course, you have to be sufficiently liquored up during that period of time, or else you're going to offend someone as well. So you try your best to go along with the flow.
Oh, that is hilarious. We have to take our final break. I cannot believe you did that. That is so much fun. But we will be back, and y'all come back too.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to UFOlogy to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio. We are so glad you're here. I have been having the very best conversation with Michael Hall. And Michael, I am so glad that we got together and that you were able to be here tonight.
Oh, me too, Kat. My gosh, Palm Sunday. The idea that we have in the midst of all this travail and crisis, we literally should have something to celebrate as well. And of course, we are indeed celebrating the idea that we can communicate, through this medium, social media, and get the word out on various interesting phenomena, I think. And you are to be commended, the fact that you get to do this on a regular basis, bring to your listeners good news, literally good news about what's going on out there in the paranormal.
I love my job. And I have never had a bad show. I've had interesting shows, technically, but I love it. I get to learn along with my audience. I get to talk to people that don't generally give you their time. They're in a different part of the world from me or whatever. I love this medium.
Yeah, I mean, where can you, up to this point, be able to sit down in my case, my old paranormal law office down here, and surrounded by all the things that I enjoy, that I need. If I need something hot to drink, I have it right here by my side. And I'm able to converse with people literally like yourself around the world and around the planet that have important things to say. And do it just like as if we're sitting at a coffee shop or in the dining room, on the couches, just kind of having informative and informational conversations. I think it's fascinating that you and I are alive at this point, and probably, I predict this as well, is that we are probably more useful right now in our lifetimes than we have ever been.
I would agree. Why do you think that?
Well, I have had health challenges myself over the last 10 years or so with the diabetic condition that took my left kidney, and pulmonary embolisms and, the whole hypertension thing. If indeed I had been in the condition that I was during this period of time, the coronavirus probably would have taken me out a long time ago. But I was lucky enough in September of 2018 to be able to have bariatric surgery, save my life, literally lost 150 pounds, and I have much more energy and opportunity now, I think, to be used for the good. And I am just enjoying the idea that all my kids are grown. They're all adults now. Went through a divorce that I suppose needed to happen, about 7 years ago. And now I'm just freed up to be able to be an instrument to the universe, to be able to figure out what we need to do to get the rest of the folks out there over this paradigm shift that's coming down the road, I believe.
Wide open. I have to ask a question. I neglected to mark it, and I promised. Have you ever had a UFO or alien encounter? And we've got 10 minutes. I am sorry that it's at the end, but I do want to touch on the awakening if there's time after you answer that.
Oh, of course. I've got an amazing experience that happened to me on January 10th of 2012 that involves some missing time, some screen memories, some realities that don't seem to fit. If we've got 5 minutes for that story, I can do that, or I can save it for another time.
Well, you want to come back?
Oh, I would love to come back, of course.
Well, then we will do that, because that story needs more than 5 minutes, I think.
It is quite amazing. And being
amazing.
A thinker like you are as well, I literally love people's anecdotal stories of screen memories, missing time, and all this stuff. But I tell you what, I've got some scientific evidence that I bring to the table in this regard that is kind of astonishing as well. And that's what really makes me wonder what's going on.
I'm on the same page with you relevant to that.
Yeah.
But I think that this week, the shift, the paradigm and energy shift with ascension is something important, because we're experiencing it. I know that I got an email from David Wilcock about his free ascension videos that he was putting out, and I thought, well, I haven't gotten that email in a long time, and I haven't had that topic be part of it. So interesting. But when you do come back, though, I want to talk about the secret the space programs too, like with Corey, and I saw another man this week discussing that was a slightly different story. But where do you stand with the ascension, the awakening? I think that we are monitored to check that, in my opinion. That's what a lot of the visits that we get from unknown entities evolve around. But what's your take on that?
Well, I really believe that my client Grant Cameron is right on the money, as you pointed out, with the whole idea of consciousness being the key. And everything seems to be connected somehow, whether it's ufology, phenomenology, ghosts, Bigfoots, cryptids, all these things. If we find out the answers to one of them, I think it's going to go a long way to find out what's really going on in the whole new paradigm shift that's coming down. And, one of my main concerns, Kat, is the fact that coming from a faith-based community myself as a kid, I was raised in the Methodist Church and literally became a vice president of Puget Sound Christian College for many years as well, here in the Seattle area. But I was always the person that was trying to figure out, well, how does this paranormal, this supernatural, fit into the faith-based community when the fact that there are so many paranormal and supernatural passages and scriptures out there in all sorts of sacred scriptures, not just the Christian Bible. And so I've always been concerned that if we lose our faith-based community, the local Baptist church on the corner, the local synagogue, because people think that they are irrelevant, given the revelations that are coming down the road, that potentially people live on other planets, maybe even in our own solar system, and they're visiting our planet Earth. My concern is that we need to help the faith-based believers out there over this massive paradigm shift that I see is coming very, very quickly.
How quickly?
Well, when you think about the timeline of December 16th of 2017, actually confirming for the first time on the front page of the New York Times that UFOs exist finally. If you think about the 70 years prior to that, when the government and the military is saying, there's nothing to it. We closed down Blue Book in 1969 because there was nothing to it. Now, just a very short period of time ago, they're confirming, wait a minute, they do exist. The Catholic Church, indeed, has now come out and said, well, if we came across an alien that needed to be or wanted to be baptized, we could handle that as well as a religion. the whole idea that these things are happening so quickly in the mainstream media now. I can't imagine what it's going to be like even 6 months from now, Kat. Literally, the confirmations, for instance, in the Admiral Wilson smoking gun memo, for instance, the Core Secrets memo. If indeed, and I've got some breaking news in that regard, I believe there's going to be some new corroborations from that memo of individuals that will be able to be verified and vetted that were involved in that story, that will lend not more credibility to the idea that this is not just a story, but is confirmation of what's going on. So indeed, if those are happening so quickly, I can't imagine in the next few weeks and months what will be happening to us as we bound back from this lockdown that we're under now.
Yeah, I find this to be a curious time for a lockdown anyway.
Bingo.
Due to this information. It's like, y'all just stay home and think a while. And, you're actually hearing from different sources where it's highly unusual. Pray or meditate. Do whatever it is that you do to get you through this. And I'm like, I do both, but okay. Yeah. But it's coming from governmental sources. It's not coming from ministerial people. So it's just really kind of a shocking time for this to be going on. It's shocking as all get out that it's going on. Don't let me seem to be, lessening the experience. This is hideous. But it's an odd time.
The synchronicities are just astonishing.
Yes.
And whenever I see synchronicities happening in my life and around the planet and the universe, indeed, I always think to myself, well, this is the universe getting our attention, saying,
Yes.
You know what, we are on the right path here. I believe that's what synchronicities tell us. And indeed, if there was a time where the paradigm shift is coming fast at us, what a better time for us to prepare ourselves for that major shift in reality than to have some time alone, some time to contemplate, in prayer and meditation. I think we're all getting to know ourselves a lot better than we have ever had the opportunity to do in our lifetime.
I think that's true too. And sometimes I wonder how people that thought they knew themselves very well, but had never taken the time to have any introspection time. I wonder what they're thinking. It gives one pause, doesn't it?
It's the type of thing, I have an 89-year-old, almost 90-year-old mother myself, and I see some minute changes in her going deeper inside her own psyche than I've ever seen in her adult years. People now are realizing that there's something beyond our control that's going on out there, and they're putting their own lifetime experiences and kind of collating them with what they see in the world and taking some restocking of what they're finding out.
I heard that in a conversation I had with my stepmother, who is still working and still out finding mountains to walk up and down, even in this week.
Wow.
Who is also in her 80s. And she's a pistol. But, it's really, I think, giving her pause, too, that, she works in the medical field. She is part of a review board. And I think it really has taken everyone aback. And as you said, it's causing them to take stock.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely not going to go back to the same old after this situation for sure.
Absolutely. We've got about a minute left. Would you tell people the best ways to find you? I will also have that in the information Fate Mag Radio, but just while you're here.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you, Kat. They can always find me on Facebook at Michael W. Hall. or the Paranormal Lawyer, either way. They can always go to UFOiTEAM with a lowercase I as well, and find us on Facebook and on social media, and our UFOiTEAM.com website as well.
Which is fascinating.
It's a lot of cool stuff up there. We post every video that we come across and all sorts of interesting stuff up there that people can share.
Which is neat. And you are part of the UAPx as well.
Yes, I am their vice president for legal affairs. I kind of proudly wear that moniker, as well as being the paranormal lawyer. So I'm looking forward to December of 2020, this year, going back out again, searching for these UAP Tic-Tac UFOs.
You're going to have so much fun. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to have you back.
Oh,
it's
anytime.
It's going to be so much fun.
This has just been great. 2 hours went like a whiz tonight.
I know, right? And I look forward to our next conversation. You are a fascinating man.
Well, right back at you, that's for sure. It's fun to find synchronicity folks out there that we can, communicate with and bring the interesting stuff to the masses out there.
It is, and it's always neat when you just realize that, hey, that's a kindred soul. I know that guy.
Yeah.
Deep down. Well, thanks again. I'm looking forward to it. And for all of our listeners, I know these are such trying times. I really do. And I always tell you, if you don't like the reality you're in, fix it. We have that power. You cannot alter everything, but you can alter you, and you can alter your reality around you. You can meditate. You can be the change you want to see. You can be the kind of person that you would like to have as a friend. We're social distancing right now. You should not be really hugging. And trust me, I'm a hugger. It's killing me. And I think that, as Michael said, we are here in this time period to experience whatever is coming next. And it doesn't have to be a scary thing. I don't think it's a scary thing at all. But we have to get through this. And please, please, speak to your Creator about the people that are being touched by this. They need your love and prayers. We all do. So, be that friend that you would like to have. See you next week. I will not. We're off next week. See you in 2 weeks. Good night.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.